Here is a question. I will read it out to you and then I will answer it to the best of my ability. In any type of relationship, how do recovering people pleasers know for a surety if they're being their true, authentic selves? Well, it's a challenge for any human being, whether you would identify as a codependent or a people pleaser or not, to know how much of you're bringing to the relationship and how much falsehood you're bringing to the relationship. I would say that in the current cultural moment we're living through, long-term relationships have never been more challenging because we're entrained to think, talk, and act as avatars. The avatars that political think tanks and sales and marketing teams make of us, we're now becoming that. So instead of us leading the avatar is leading us. So the practice would then become one of authenticity in every aspect of your life. I agree with you. The implicit suggestion here would be that a relationship is a uniquely challenging area of life. You know, it's not so it's challenging, but not so challenging at work. It's not as challenging in friendships. It's more challenging in relationships. We'll get to why it's more challenging in relationships in a second. Every area of your life is going to try to move you from your true intent, to move you from your true purpose, to move you from your true authenticity. Not everybody who's watching this is coming to the table with the same level of progress in this area of their lives. For some people, they've never heard the idea that they might not be being completely authentic at all times before, ever. So this is a novel idea. The chance that you are being completely authentic is zero. So you can accept that. It's something that we have to strive for. It's something that we need to fight for. It takes discipline, it takes courage, it takes skill. And I believe it would be a perpetual battle from now until the day we all pass away. You'll always be striving towards authenticity and having situations, culture, people, media pulling you off that path. But one way to overcome this is to really make a courageous effort to find your true purpose based on your core values and then be congruent with the core values and your purpose and keep moving in that direction. It's tough. It takes an awful lot of courage to do that, but it's better than living a fake life. I mean, high risk, high reward. You know, the rewards are great, but it is tough. It is tough to do. Why is it worse in relationships? Relationships are the great temptation before relationships. You know, at the attraction level, the great temptation is to fake who you are to get what you want from the other person. It sounds terrible. It makes us all sound like the most awful narcissists, the most awful actors. But this is human nature. I think it's rooted in evolutionary biology. In evolutionary biology, they have something called the theory of signaling. There is an animal, it's called a springbok. A springbok. And it looks like a deer. It's a prey animal. And it does a thing that's signaling. It's called spronking. I'm not making this up. It's called spronking. When a springbok spronks, it jumps very high. Why would it do that? What it's trying to do is it's trying to signal to potential predators that it can't see, but that might be watching it at any time. So this is like the sense that you're on stage and you're being watched and you never really know what the consequences of your signals are. It jumps really high to say, I'm young, I'm fit. If you chase me, I'll probably get away from you and you'll waste your energy. So don't chase me. That's a signal in biology. It gets really interesting when we look at honest and false signals in biology. An honest signal is where the animal is signaling that it's young and fit, that it can run away from a predator, or that it is sexually active, or that it is dominant to get better mate selection, or whatever it is. That's it, if it's being honest. It behooves animals to engage in fake signaling because there are resources that can be acquired. If I can trick, say in a mating scenario, if I can trick the highly desirable females, if I'm a lion, and I can trick the most desirable lionesses into thinking that I'm more of an alpha than I really am, and that gets me cleared for mate selection and breeding, that's a resource I've won. But if I fake it, if I use false signaling to do that, number one, it damages the ecosystem, because if everybody fakes, if all the lions fake their prowess and their dominance, there's no way for the lionesses to be able to select effectively, and then the quality of the gene pool would diminish. The second problem with false signaling is those lionesses have learned how to detect a fake alpha. There are videos online, if you have the stomach to watch them, of what lionesses do when they dethrone a fake alpha. It's brutal. I don't know if you've ever heard a lion scream before, or seen a lion get its nuts bitten. And I mean bitten, but it's pretty nasty. The females, they move en masse. The last time I saw this, I was laughing. The male lions, who are the beaters, who want to take his position, they run over. And I think, oh, they're going to kill him, because the lionesses are pushing him off the rock. They're biting him. They're biting him. They're clawing his face and biting his ears, not nipping him as a joke like that. And there's the back of the legs, the string, the tendon, ripping the tendon in his legs, and he's screaming. The male lions, who are beaters, who want to take his place, they run over, and you think, oh, they're going to kill him. They're going to kill him and take his place. They come and rescue him because the lionesses are trying to take him out. That's the potential danger of false signaling. So be aware when you are engaging with people in a relationship setting that these things take place. We can go through the false signals, like you can have false hair, you can have false nails, you can make yourself taller, you can make yourself whatever it is. Like, that's all examples of false signaling in a mating scenario. Why would we do that? Why is the temptation to be inauthentic so high? Because the payoffs are that you would procreate with a better mate than you would otherwise get, and then your children will be healthier and have a better chance of reproducing themselves. So your genes have a better chance of reproduction. It's interesting to look at Richard Dawkins' idea of the selfish gene, but there is this concept that the primary purpose, not that a gene has purpose, but the drive is towards replication. And that many things that are confusing can be understood if we understand a little bit of evolutionary biology and a little bit of the focus of what our DNA and our genetics actually want. They want to reproduce. Higher quality mate means more reproduction and more survivability of the children, which means more survivability of part of you, which is your DNA. So false signaling occurs. So the greatest temptation any of us will experience in life, and it's rooted in our DNA, is to fake who we are and to signal falsely. I'm trying to say signal falsely. To signal falsely in relationships. So it's extremely hard. Even if the relationship is secure and you're still with the person, you might still find this biologically rooted drive to misrepresent who you are to maintain the relationship in a way that you want it to be maintained. We must fight these things. It is better, even though animalistically, biologically, we have those drives in that way, our DNA doesn't really care whether we're happy or not. That's my humble opinion. Your DNA doesn't give a shit if you're happy. Your DNA is perfectly happy for you to be utterly miserable for life as long as you procreate. This is why we get back with bad partners. And your DNA will push you to do it. As long as the person is basically healthy and you would have okay children with them, Your DNA doesn't care if you be happy. The DNA doesn't speak happy. It doesn't care whether you prefer chocolate chip or vanilla ice cream, and it damn sure doesn't care if you're happy and fulfilled. It wants you to reproduce. So your abusive ex-girlfriend, your abusive ex-boyfriend that you can't stop thinking about, I personally believe is partly a genetic drive saying go and reproduce with them. They were fit, strong, and healthy. You'd be like, oh, they were alcoholics and they were narcissists and they were this and they were that. Your DNA doesn't speak that language. It doesn't care. So the challenge is there. I've now made you aware of it. Philosophically, psychologically, we know if you falsely signal, you're going to end up with the wrong person who is getting up with the wrong version of you, or an inaccurate version of you, or a version of you that isn't even you. And it is a recipe for disaster. We must fight the drive from the biology to falsely signal and the pressure from society to conform, which also induces false signaling. You be you. If you're going to get rejected, you should be rejected for who you are. If you're going to get selected, you should get selected for who you are, not who you're pretending to be. If you get rejected for who you're pretending to be, that's just dumb. If you get accepted for pretending to be somebody you're not, that is a tragedy waiting to happen. One is dumb and a little bit sad. The other one is a tragedy that has a really high risk of becoming a catastrophe. You don't believe me? Speak to any one of your friends who's divorced from an abusive ex-partner, but they have children with them, and that person stays in their life in order to get visitation to their children. That moves beyond the tragedy towards the catastrophic. You don't want that. If you can avoid it, avoid it. Be authentic. Tell the truth. It's a hard discipline, but it will save you from 1,000 hells. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and for your attention, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Cheers.